exciting panel here to talk about the topic of social selling. And with us today, we have Gail Kirby, my colleague at Santa Clara. And Gail teaches retail marketing, and we also teach the global program. So she and I have been to Brazil, New Zealand, Washington, and that's a great part of our program here, is taking students around the world.
Yeah.
And then we have Elisa Camahort Page. Did I get it right? No, I do it every time. I do it right. Elisa Camahort Page, who's the Chief Community Officer of SheKnows Media. But prior to that, she was the founder or the co-founder of BlogHer. And she has a lot to share about the blogging community and media. And Megan Heinen, who is Director of Marketing at Home Care Assistance. And then Ping Hao, who's past board president of Family Caregiver Alliance. And can we say where you work now?
Sure.
Okay. I'll let you tell your title.
Oh, I work at Walmart.com.
Okay. And then Melissa Mayo, who's head, Melissa Meow.
You got
just
it.
like the kitten.
Yes, you got it.
Head of commercial at CareLink. So I'm going to turn it, so this is kind of, the other group is in speed dealing in the other room, trying to get a deal because they're not in the competition. And this group is everything you need to know about social selling to take your product to market. So Gail's going to start with retail trends, and one of the benefits of being here at Santa Clara is we have access to all the National Retail Federation data. So over to you.
Thank you. Our Retail Management Institute has been around for over 30 years, and some of our alums have had very distinguished positions throughout the industry. More specifically, Mark Brashear had been president of Hugo Boss. He graduated, one of our first graduates of 30 years ago. Today, Mark is the president and CEO of John Veratos. Prior to that, he was president of Michael Kors and Hugo Boss. And then this necklace I'm wearing is from a student who I had in 1997, and she had done an internship with Macy's and Mervyn's, and then went to work for Miriam Haskell in New York. Her name is Chantel Waterbury, and she started her own business when she was on maternity leave, and decided to reinvent how product was being created and sold. And so she sells her jewelry through, her brand is called Chloe and Isabel, and she sells it through merchandisers, which is another channel besides the store channel. And so she hired women, young women choose to purchase a starter set of jewelry, and then they create it all. It's all sold through social media and through a direct channel, which is kind of what Chantel saw about 5 or 6 years ago. Let's see, another one of our alums who's very distinguished is Giselle Ruiz. And Giselle graduated in 1992. She was one of my first students when I joined Santa Clara. And currently today, she's the Executive Vice President of International People Division. And so we're really proud of Chantel and her rich career at Walmart. So anyway, but I'm here to talk about some of the retail trends. And I wanted to, how do I change the channel?
Well, I think we need the remote.
We need a remote. Was to define what social selling is. So thank you. So I pulled the definition of.
This is remote 1, yeah.
Okay.
No?
No?
There's another remote over there.
Remote 2? Not that we need it. Oh, there we go, social selling.
Well, it might be
Yay.
this one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is women business teams at work collaborating and helping each other. Yeah.
So you can see, it's, by definition, we as academics like to do the umbrella of what we're going to be talking about. So here you can see it's the process of developing relationships as part of the sales process. And today this often takes place through social networks. And so obviously this is from Wikipedia. The sources are LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. And this is what Chantel's using as she's driving her business in art. So today my colleagues here are going to give you rich examples of the 3 C's of social selling, and they'll show you some examples they have in their own work and how they drive context, content and collaboration with the teams they work with. But this was my slide I wanted to bring to us today, was to show you that m-commerce will continue to grow. I mean, this was the big buzz at NRF for the last 10 years of, maybe 8 years, of, you know, m-commerce, mobile commerce was really going to kind of transform kind of the retail marketplace. And right now we see this huge disruption in the retail industry, and part of it is coming from this play of our using our smartphones in engaging in the retail environment as we search and maybe make purchase decisions in a retail store using our smartphones as we're gathering data or making a purchase decision, maybe engaging a sales associate. But we're constantly seeing much of this disruption as consumers are empowered through this idea of this omni-channel in which they're the ones who are, you know, engaging in the retail environment and making their own kinds of purchases here. So this is kind of what I really wanted to show. But I also wanted to show how the percentage change, it's kind of like catalog selling. You know, at one point it exploded, and then slowly the percentage change and increase in sales started to decline, to level off. And we're going to see this also with mobile. And we often hear that the e-commerce part of commerce today is about 10%. So even though our retail sales are about $5 trillion, you know, mobile and the e-commerce component is right now about 10%. So it's not like it's it's not a huge play. But the biggest partner in our mobile e-commerce space is Amazon. And so we all are like, Amazon is certainly a business of 80 billion. And it continues to disrupt the natural retail environment and pulling consumers away from stores as they do their purchase decisions. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. Next.
Okay, so I think it's over to you.
Okay, I may have one more slide, but I'm going to move through it quickly. Who's next? I had some big takeaways from the National Retail Federation conference, and again, it's the convergence of this digital and physical channels. I think I just brought that to light here. You know, convenience is the most important part of what consumers are looking for. So again, you have to think about, as a business, how the consumer will continue to find that level of convenience. Thank you.
And we're going to make all these slides today available for you. Even the boot camps yesterday and boot camps this morning, we'll take out some that are proprietary, but you'll have those to take back for your learning.
Thank you.
Great, so I'm going to talk mostly about the content and context portion of content, context, and collaboration. And just a little bit about us. SheKnows Media is the #1 lifestyle and women's lifestyle network online with a very large reach. They did acquire my company, BlogHer, and so we're now one of several properties that SheKnows Media has. So the thing about social media is that the different social platforms actually have very different purposes for people. People's mindset, even as they flip back and forth between the social platforms, is actually quite different, and that relates to what they expect from those social platforms and therefore what resonates in those social platforms. And we've done research since 2008 about with users of social media and why they use it, how it influences them, and how that translates to action. So if you think about the primary purpose people report for each of these platforms, it can give you some good clues and triggers for how to market and sell within them. So Facebook is still a place where people mostly communicate with friends and family over a range of topics. But the thing about Facebook is its near ubiquity means that it is today's utility. It is replacing the phone for many people. More and more people don't want to talk on the phone. They may not even want to text. I mean, nothing actually annoys me more than getting Facebook messages, but that is what people are using. And that is how people are keeping touch. It's amazing. You find out about births, you find out about deaths, you find out about all of this now. So it's replacing the phone as a pure utility. But that also means that people's expectation is that they're not necessarily going to be sold to in Facebook. So people may go to Facebook to get your discount or get your offer or get your one-time transactional, you give me something, I'll give you something. But they're not, that's not building a customer relationship. To build a customer relationship in Facebook requires humanity. And I think that's something that a lot of marketers are having trouble adjusting to, because they see it as such a green field of like millions and millions of people. When it comes to Twitter, Twitter has had an identity crisis since it first launched. You know, has always kind of wavered around who and what it wants to be. But what it is right now is a huge real-time conversational platform. And if you don't have something to say that's about something happening right now, I think you're wasting your effort on Twitter pretty much. And that can be real-time serious, like hashtag Ferguson, hashtag Orlando, and that can be something entertainment-oriented, hashtag Scandal, hashtag Oscars. But if you can't integrate into conversations that are happening in this moment, there's a whole echo chamber Twitter, but I actually don't think it's that productive. Instagram is definitely the under 35 setter in Instagram, and a really important thing to know about Instagram is that it is interest-based community. Facebook is identity-based community. So people are connecting over who they know and who they know who they know. Instagram, people are connecting over what they like. It's what Google Plus wanted to try and be and didn't succeed at. But so actually hashtags are super powerful on Instagram. Use 8, use 9, use 10 hashtags, doesn't annoy people, and you will build your community and they'll be very segmented. So I have my cat folks, I have my vegetarian and vegan folks, and I have my shoes folks, and I have you can very clearly see it in my followers and in who I follow, that they fall into these interest groups. And you can find your group on Instagram. Pinterest, I tell a lot of companies, if you are not creating something for, within the home, whether that's home, garden, clothing, fashion, beauty, food, I also think Pinterest is someplace you're essentially wasting your time. Go ahead, have a Pinterest, figure out something light to do with it, but that is still what it is after these years. It's for window shopping and hacking your experience in and outside and within the home. Finally, blogs are still super powerful, especially for people as they hit a certain age and life stage. Blogs become powerful no matter the generation. So it's absolutely true that teenagers no longer use blogs to express themselves because they have about 11 billion other options for how to tell you what they had for lunch and how to check in and say, I'm going to this place or that place. But as people go into their careers and want to be thought leaders, or they go into parenting and want to share the experience of that, or they go into social impact and want to build advocacy, blogs are where substantive conversations are happening. And where people are building communities that are their own, not part of the Facebook conglomerate or other conglomerate. So, sorry, I should have turned that off. So when it comes to blogs, and I think do you have a question?
Where would you put Snapchat?
Oh, that's so interesting. So Snapchat is completely, not even all millennials, but young millennials and teens, tweens and teens and young millennials. It is also very real time, but very personal real time, as opposed to the world real time. I think brands are trying like hell to figure out what's my place in this. But if you're talking to boomers, I don't think you need Snapchat to talk to boomers. I mean, that's one thing I would say, because every boomer I know is like, I've started a Snapchat account. I have no idea why, and they don't use it. But if you are trying to reach that younger generation, it's a tremendous tool. But so far, this is ephemeral. It's in the moment. It's very real time. It's very informal, fun. So it's got a very specific kind of tone and voice that's not right for every company. When it comes to blogging content, the sweet spot is really to be human, but to be useful. I don't think you have to be useful in Snapchat, and I don't really think you have to be useful in Instagram. You're sharing snippets and snapshots of your life, and it's very fun. It's very relaxing and fun to browse Pinterest or to browse Instagram. But blogs, people really want to get advice, recommendations, suggestions. Oh my God, what do I do? How did you do this? Can you give me 10 steps? And this is actually very much applying, I didn't include YouTube up there either, but for YouTube, the how-to and instructional stuff is also really powerful, especially for the older generations. So very quickly, bloggers most of them don't consider themselves journalists, but they can commit acts of journalism, as can we all. But you should know their beat like a journalist. You wouldn't reach out to someone whose beat was completely you know, you wouldn't be a biotech company who reached out to someone from a completely different vertical and expect them to cover you. And people reach out all the time to bloggers that have nothing to do with their subject area. They are also your prospective users. So they're in an interesting position because you can speak to a blogger and they're your customer, but they happen to have a relationship with maybe millions more of your customers. So it's kind of a two-edged, there's two things they do. And they're very motivated by different things. The people you want to talk to are the people who are already talking about what you talk about, who already have exhibited some interest and concern and care about the issue. Again, know their beat, know what resonates with them, because those are the people you want to build that are your A-list, not some list you found of the top 10 bloggers that exist, because 9 out of 10 of them don't care about what you're doing. And finally, they're storytellers. They really want a story. And if your story aligns with their story, they will be happy to tell your story. They're looking for stories. And I think that was my last slide.
So
Okay.
I have one quick question. When you when you sold BlogHer to SheKnows Media, what were the qualities that you saw in SheKnows Media that they had? And I know together you reach 80 million women,
Right.
but they had some assets you thought were important.
Right, so we had built our company based on the idea that destination websites were declining, and they certainly were and and that we were very much based on a distributed network of all these bloggers and influencers and sort of aggregating our reach together and being able to target within that, because the technology's evolved to really help you target people very, very specifically, no matter where they went on the web. So we had really focused on that, authentic influencer content. We do have live events that we do. SheKnows had focused very heavily on two things that we had not invested in that we began to see really made a difference. So they do have a couple of really beautiful, very well done destination sites that have big, big audiences because they super focused. One is style based and one is more young woman to, sort of millennial through Gen X to young boomer kind of women's lifestyle, but very focused on beautiful and high quality. They'd also invested a lot in video. Video production facilities, video production talent, video production content development, and video is very much the future way people are consuming a lot of content on the web, and it's very important to be in the video game, just like it's as important as knowing that most of your visitors are now coming through mobile, and it's not just young people, everybody lives on their mobile now. I mean, it's very ubiquitous generationally, so video's as important as that for keeping the attention of your consumer.
I think Kathy Kelly was here today from Family Caregiver Alliance, and she said they had, I think, 200,000 downloads for her video of
YouTube videos
of wound care.
Yeah.
So Melissa, why don't we turn it over to you?
Yeah, I'll go through mine pretty quickly here. So I head up commercialization for CareLinks, and I've been a part of a lot of digital health startups, and social selling is really a primary communication channel, mainly because it's so cost effective, especially if you have a limited marketing budget. So I thought today I would just go quickly through 3 lessons that I've learned in my years in digital health. The first lesson learned, the KISS principle, which some of you may have heard of, and that's just keep it simple, stupid. I think we could all talk for hours about the products and services that we love, but when you're talking about social selling, you don't have hours, you have minutes, and sometimes you have seconds. So what we've always done is be very disciplined about narrowing down your key core value propositions. And once you're able to do that, for CareLinks, for us it was being affordable and accessible, having a personal advisor, being trusted and connected. But that's still a lot of value propositions. So when you're looking at display ads on Google and Facebook, you really have to prioritize and see what is most eye-catching. The great thing about social selling is that you can collect a lot of data and test. You can test out your hypotheses and iterate based off of what you learn. The second lesson is that it's not just about you, it's about your customer. So a lot of times in marketing, people are always pitching their company. They don't think about what their customer actually needs and what they want. So this key tip here is don't just market yourself. So one tip is to provide information that's educational, that's useful to your user, because a lot of marketing is building a relationship with your potential customer. At CareLinks, when they come to our website, maybe they're not ready to commit to a caregiver on day one, but we know they're struggling with trying to deal with an aging parent or grandparent. So we try to start developing the relationship with providing useful, actionable information. And make sure you have multiple touch points, the blog, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And then this is the last lesson that I'll share, and that's really looking at what happens after you find your potential customer. It's really now what? And a lot of people forget to focus on where they're directing their users to. And here are some key things we've learned along the way. Dynamic landing pages are very effective. So you can actually match your ad copy to the landing page or the website that you've set up, and we found that to be really effective. Being mobile responsive is really important because a lot of users are getting their information on their phones now, and they're not willing to wait minutes to have a site downloaded. So make sure that your developer team is making your site mobile responsive. And then this last piece is use the data to continue learning about your customer. Where are they coming from? What pages are they looking at? And continue to iterate on your marketing campaigns.
So Megan and Ping, we have a couple minutes of insight from each of you. So this is your Today Show moment. You have 2 minutes to tell us, or your CNBC moment.
Sure, I'll keep it very quick then. I mean, I agree absolutely with everything that's been said so far. I wanted to give a high level about our approach to social media, but I'll keep it very short. I'll just say that when we think about social selling, we're thinking about curating content, like Elisa said, that is useful to our demographic. So really understanding our demographic and what they want to be reading, not necessarily treating social media as a direct sell is a really important thing to understand. And then I just wanted to quickly provide an example of our overarching theme of context, content, and collaboration. Many of you may know about this, but this Monday, June 20th, was the longest day of the year, but it's also one of the biggest pushes for the Alzheimer's Association to bring attention to the disease and raise funds. The campaign is about how every day for those suffering from Alzheimer's and their loved ones is the longest day. So we took advantage of the context of that day and also just how important that campaign was, and used our social media channels to go purple. We changed our branding to purple. We also, one of our newer locations, we threw an open house and collaborated with the local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association on that to bring together a bunch of people, food trucks, live music, to bring even more attention and raise funds for the campaign. And then we also shared it across all of our channels and produced content around Alzheimer's and dementia and bringing awareness. So that's an example of something we've done recently that proved to be very successful. And another piece of it that was also very successful that you touched on quickly was we launched a video where we celebrated all of our caregivers that support our clients struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia, and that video got tremendous engagement, not just because it's a video, that is a form of content that's extremely engaging on social media, but because of the context with the longest day, and the content itself was just really speaking to our demographic. So that's my 2 cents.
And Ping, your last
Sure,
couple
no problem.
words.
I wanted to frame this a little bit in a way where it is about the focus of the customer. And if you look at the overall, like social media, where it's evolving, I still think we're very early on. I was talking to a colleague of mine who's an expert in this area, and his view is social media for people 65 and older is really like the new phone book. It's a substitute of the phone book, but not just that, it's like a substitute of the US mail system in terms of communication. And also in terms of the community center, now is online versus offline. And then finally, it's a place where I think people quickly go to after they think they might have a particular need. They go to social media, figure out, was my need really real, and how do I solve it, and what are the best ways of thinking about it, and it's at that point they engage. So I wanted to make sure that it kind of brought forth, you know, the model of why it's so critical, almost on every single level to someone who's 65 and older. The other part, I wanted to kind of just change direction and just send a message to a lot of the companies. The thought now is that if you had $1 million to invest in marketing, how much of it would you invest in social media? And the current thought from the folks that are kind of in my world, it's 70%.
Wow.
And that is very significant. And then the other 30%, the majority of it, and then again, this is someone who, you know, is an expert, or these are kind of folks who spent all their time in social media in terms of working with startups and working with growing companies, is that some of the other marketing dollars, the other 30%, may actually be not exactly what you thought it used to be. And it could be in event marketing or some other types of vehicles. So I think the game, it's really incredibly disruptive, so fundamental, and we're just in the early stages.
So there you have it, some great insights on social selling, and I think most of you will be there at the reception if you want to drill down a little more and ask about these issues. I would tie it back to what Ken said, though. There's still a lot of print, television, and radio that this Boomer senior audience uses. So thanks to all of you.